On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
How do you get to that place? Or better yet, how did you get to that place? Or how would you suggest the listener gets to that place of knowing that you know, that you know, that you know? In essence, you've got this resoluteness or this like deep-seated, like, no, I'm here, right? How do you get there? What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolf, Gathering the Kings podcast, coming back to you here today. I'm your host. I've got Brandon Neely here on the King stage. My brother, Brandon. How we doing?
Good, Chaz. It's so fun to be called a king here, you know.
Hey, yo. You didn't even, I didn't even need to put the crown on your head. You came with your own crown, my man.
Yeah, well, you know, I am a person of faith, so I'm like, kings, that whole thing, sons, daughters. I like resonate with that kind of thing.
Totally.
And a lot of times people are living in a place of not into what they should be living into, and living as, I don't know, orphans. So I think, we are not orphans. We're kings and queens. So that's an amazing thing. So, hey,
that's right, dude. Wow. What a way to start. I agree with you on all fronts. Brandon, tell us what kind of business that you have, man.
Yeah, I am a reluctant in the financial services world. I did not go into this, like literally. I got into this to change lives, and I have a company called Wealth Wisdom Financial, formerly Grandma's Wealth Wisdom, but Wealth Wisdom Financial. It's an amazing deal, and the reason we're in it is because this concept, this foundational asset, helped us sell our business, our former business, and not close it. Okay. And so now we're just trying to, like in the Bible, one beggar showing another beggar where to find bread is kind of the idea. And we're like, let's just help as many people as we can. So that's what we do in the financial services world of all things.
Yeah, well, it's a big space. I know you've got a couple of niches inside of that, and I'm sure we can get to that, but I know you're a numbers guy. I know your wife's a big part of that as well. I see the Profit First book behind you. What a great book. So I'm sure we're going to get into some numbers and some technical things and help a lot of entrepreneurs out there. But I want to know, what's the bigger why? You're not obviously drawn to financial services as a widget. That's in essence what you were just saying. What are you drawn to? What's the bigger picture for you, Brandon?
Yeah, I'm a person that wants to change the world and make bigger impacts in the world, right? Really, it's more about making people's lives better and impacting justice and those kind of things. So in my former business, I used to own a coffee shop. It was called Overflow. And the reason we got into this is to build community building and ethical economics, right? That was why we got into it. To make a difference with the coffee farmers, because coffee people were not paid fairly who made the coffee, and we wanted to change that. However, going into that, we were idealistic entrepreneurs, have rich relatives to help us, and our business name was called Overflow. Now, what I learned is I can't overflow if I don't take care of me and our family. And a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs don't get that concept, or they think they're going to take everything and never leave anything to other people. So they're doing the reverse. So you have to have this happy medium. But I learned a lot in that former business that I would tell people what not to do in that regard. But it's been amazing, but a journey. And now I do the same thing, justice type work, except it's in the financial world. And if you want to look at corruption, look in the financial system. Yeah.
Okay, so business owners listening right now, they're like, okay, I hear you. You want to change the world. You want to, eradicate, corruption in the financial space. Your little reach is, even as a successful business owner, is only so far. Mm-hmm. Why does that itch the deep place for you? From the other side of the world, it's like, oh, well, your reach is just so small in comparison to this big old pool, but yet it's still very real for you. Like, that was your answer. Like, no, I'm changing things.
Yeah.
Why is that still a thing for you?
I think about, like, again, I do a lot with life insurance, right? And it's one of the things with even just the part of life insurance, and I might go a little spiritual on this one, but it's one of the most spiritual products, financial products out there, because it's to protect widows and orphans, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Literally, that's what it's for, right? And so I don't know whenever I help a client how that's going to impact generations. Right.
Right.
And a lot of times people's financial mindset is a systemic thing of culture, or what their parents taught them or what their grandparents taught them. And it's reinforcing. And then, in our capitalistic world, we're told, go buy this, go do this, you deserve it. And oftentimes we're just spending money we don't have anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to learn how to, one, be content, live with enough, but also be striving, and I think that's a hard balance, to get to, but how do we figure that out? And that's, for me, it really comes down to, I could have a lot of money and be divorced. That's not good either. So
yeah, there is a play here, for people who quote unquote want to have it all, right? Yeah. All doesn't necessarily look like what maybe the world is maybe telling us what all is. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing you say that wholesome values, like, yes, being successful financially, that creates financial freedom. Or in this case, investing in a life insurance policy so that if something were to happen to me, my wife mm-hmm. and children aren't left stranded and hanging. Those types of decisions, though, are based from wholesome values, as opposed to just, let me take that, $200 or $300 or $500 a month and go whatever, fill in the blank with something that maybe I don't really need. I think the hard things are what are real. In this case, like you're saying, making sure that my family's taken care of in the worst case scenario. So what do you think for you, this place of, that was pretty deep, of like, I want to help generations, and you don't actually ever even get to see it. Yeah. But in the moment of transaction, you're, like you said, maybe selling a life insurance policy, and maybe you have a relationship with that family for a period of time, or maybe all the way to the end of their life, depending upon life circumstances. But the generational effect you don't get to see. Yeah. How do you keep that such far thing in advance? Like, how do you keep it close and close even maybe to your emotions, so that way every single day you're motivated to sell another policy, or to help your team sell another policy, or whatever?
Yeah, I think some is just helping people understand how money works. And when they start getting the aha moments of figuring that out, because a lot of times, most in our financial world, we're just putting into maxing out our 401k because everyone else told you to do that. And we're like, oh yeah, that's important. And then we don't realize how market volatility impacts things, sequence of returns risks, all the jargon out there that impacts us. And then we want freedom, whatever that means. And I think sometimes the financial freedom number is very different than, a life to the fullest, or something along those lines. Right. Usually it's deeper than just, hey, I'm going to go sit on the beach somewhere. Because then you reach that number, and then you're like, okay, now what? So we want to balance that. But really, for me, it's like, man, when somebody gets it and they're starting to use their life insurance policies to buy real estate, for example, and you can do that. Like, you can use the cash value in a whole life properly designed policy to do it to buy other assets, right? That's why it's called the and asset. And just thinking about holistic, and not just the family, but generationally. And honestly, the reason we're in this situation is because we've been thinking about ourselves, not about other people, for a long time. And that's why the world is kind of in a scary place, right? Yeah. And if somebody doesn't do something about it, that's the one thing I think about. If we say someone should do something about that, usually that's us.
Yeah. You just signed up.
Whatever business it is. And then I think about that was us in our coffee journey and in our journey here. When we say someone needs to do something about it, it's probably you.
Yeah. No, that's a great reminder. of that moment when most people do nothing. They just like to complain, but action takers are different.
And get cynical.
That's right. That's right.
And then I think there's a lot of what I call entrepreneurs out there.
Oh, yeah.
They're the people who like, oh, I'm going to have a business plan. Eventually I'm going to write one. And they never actually do anything. And the real entrepreneurs are the ones who like have done stuff and they've had failures, right?
Yeah.
They've gotten punched in the mouth a couple times, kind of like what happened with my lip here. That's not happened, but that didn't happen. Those are things whenever you hear a real entrepreneur, they're like, yeah, and this happened and suck it up and move on. You just want to have less bruises. That's why I like the policies, is because they help me I can get back up faster, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about good decision-making already, which I love. So we're just going to go there. I'm going to get to your history here in a second. Give me a good decision that you've made in business, because really what I want is that juicy failure that you just kind of mentioned. But let's start with the good one first. What's the super practical decision that you've made in one of these businesses that has led to your success?
Well, I will have to say I married my wife, which is the, everybody says that thing, oh, my wife, But however, we are business partners. We've done 2 businesses together, and she's kind of like the back of the house. I'm the front of the house, if you think about it from a kitchen idea. And we would not be where we're at without that. And then she's able to really do all kinds of things, powerful things in Excel that I'm like, she comes to me and says, I say it's broken. She's like, no, it's not broken. It's you.
Yeah.
So I think that's one. But then one of our biggest accomplishments is just stepping out, right? Not just sitting there saying, we're slow to move, I think, but we move.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the understatement there of just move, right? Like, because there's so many entrepreneurs and people that talk that are not action takers in essence. And so the speed of which you move is always, I think what people who are taking action are aware of the speed, but the actual action is what's probably more important, and probably just right behind that, the consistency of action more than speed of action. Has that been your story?
Yeah, I think you're connected to Grant Cardone, right? The massive action idea, right? And something I've thought about is the massive action is great. I love massive action. What I add in there is massive appropriate action, and making sure we're making the right moves, but making moves, right? Yeah. And you could be moving and saying, oh, I'm posted 100 times on TikTok and Twitter and nothing's happening. Well, that's maybe not the best use of your massive action. Yeah. Maybe you should do something else and track that. So I like to add that appropriate. I'm sure he wrote that somewhere, but yeah. Anyway,
that's a good distinction, because you have a lot of young entrepreneurs, young in tenure, necessarily more than age, although age as well, where it's just like, I'm just going to go. Now there's learning in the go, right? Mm-hmm. Even though I'm running in the wrong direction. If I run fast in the wrong direction, I typically will find out that I'm running in the wrong direction sooner than if I'm going slow. But you're not talking about going slow. You're talking about being calculated. You're talking about, hey, we're going. Don't get me wrong. Let's make sure we pack our bag properly. Because anybody who owns a construction business, anytime you start a project without all the stuff, how many times do you go to Home Depot, or how many times you go back to your supplier, or how many times, that's just how it works if you're chasing your tail. And that's in essence what Brandon's telling you to do as a business owner. Don't just get started for the sake of getting started. Yes, there's value in that. Okay, I'm with you. But pretty quick, once you become the action taker, just right before you jump, just put a quick list together. In essence, right?
Yeah, and that's a acronym that we've developed where, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But you have to set your sights. You need to stop for a minute, and this is again, be still. You have to stop and kind of think. There's a book called, I think, The Road Less Stupid, and he says, have some thinking time. Yeah. And I think a lot of people with our social media content and even us, we have to create content because you got to feed the machine, and not having enough time to just think.
Yeah.
I think that's important. Yeah.
Yep. It's a great book. It's a great concept. And just to back what you're saying for the listener here, to kind of back up this point, I actually have 3 think times on my calendar each week. They're all for different purposes. But what Brandon's given to you guys is real. So if you've never heard of Think Time, I would highly recommend looking at Keith Cunningham and his book Road Less Stupid, and or other just resources of his. What about a bad decision, Brandon? Something that you've done, that was that big failure that's kind of given you the war scars of I'm a real entrepreneur, as you say.
Oh, I think as you grow a business, especially a coffee shop, it's very labor intensive, and hiring people can be war stories. Also, when we started our business, our second year was like the worst that could happen. Like everything that could go wrong did, from miscarriage to my grandmother died. I had a appendix. I think our cat died that year.
Wow.
And people would come in and ask, how's things going? And nobody wants to hear at the coffee, oh yeah, life sucks. They don't want to hear that.
Right.
They want to hear, it's good, give me my coffee, and then move on.
Yeah.
And our marriage almost fell apart, but we had too much debt. And that was the second year of that business. And so I think about 3 things that really got us through. It was know that you're called to it, because it will suck. That year sucked a lot. And the second was have a team around you that care about you, not just your outcome.
Yeah.
Right? Care about your marriage, care about the other things, and then know your numbers. Those 3 things, most people, I've talked to business owners, yeah, but I don't like numbers. I'm like, yeah, you should. I'll just go make money. I'm like, no, make and keep is very important. Both.
Yeah.
Was that your question? I don't know.
No, it's great. I mean, you gave several pieces there. I want to dissect your answers though. Knowing that if you're called to it, that it's going to be hard. How do you get to that place? Or better yet, how did you get to that place? Or how would you suggest the listener gets to that place of knowing that you know that you know that you know? In essence, you've got this resoluteness, or this deep-seated, no, I'm here, right? How do you get there?
I think you have to be asking, this is part of the faith journey for us, is saying, okay, can I do this? And then, from a faith side, man, there was just so many things that happened that I was like, that's weird. That's a sign or something.
Right.
And we just kept stepping one step, and it just kind of led. And then you just happen, But then at the same time, I gave myself 5 years. I'm going to put everything on the table in this business, and it's okay to step away from it 5 years, but I don't want to just say, I'm going to kind of do it.
Right.
You got to know that I'm going to put everything in, and then also be okay to say, all right, I've done everything. It's not working. I need to pivot.
Yeah. Yeah. That pivot, persistent kind of conversation, because sometimes it's one or the other. You either press through and keep going, or it's time to make something happen different. How do you know, if you're resolute about this is what I'm called to, as you said, but then you ended up selling that business. So what was the transition for you, right? Of I'm called to this, but for a period of time, or was it circumstantial? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I'll lead a couple of stories. So I remember one of my, this is crazy. So I hired a staff person, because that's where I was going to lead with this. Is that I lead with those 3 things, but I have to hire people, and take in 100% responsibility for everything, even my staff. Even though I'm not working on that stuff, I have to take responsibility for that. And I had one of the staff people, I'm pretty sure, was stealing from me. Grandma died 100 times, and different things. And I remember going to somebody, I was like, I think this place is killing me, right? And went to the hospital, and they were like, oh yeah, you have high anxiety. You need to take some of this. Stop drinking coffee. I'm like, that's not going to happen. I
own a coffee shop.
Yeah, that's not. And literally, I fired the girl, and my blood pressure went back to normal.
Wow.
Right, which is crazy to see that, but that was one thing. What happened within the end of our coffee shop years was we were on a year-to-year lease with the landlord, and we also had a flood in the business. So literally they were taking off the roof, and we had one of those freak storms that happened, and I got called by my staff. I went to the gym because, I learned to take care of myself, make sure we're doing all the right things. So we're at the gym doing the good quality time, probably listening to Keith Cunningham or somebody while on the treadmill. Get a call from my staff saying, it's probably Profit First actually, but listening to that, and then he calls, and I was like, I'm almost done with my run. I'll answer in 5 minutes. It's not that important. Then my wife is on the treadmill next to me, and they call her, and I was like, oh, this is serious.
Yeah.
So we answer, and he calls and says the store is falling apart. And I had heard the storm in the gym.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, oh, that sounds really bad. I hope the roof is good, because I was thinking about that. And we come in, and literally we come in, and the store is in a couple inches of water.
Wow.
And at that same time, and this leads into why we sold, we had a year-to-year lease. The store was literally underwater. And then a month later, we had found out that while we were treading through the water, we were expecting a child.
Wow.
We're like, all right, that's a lot of things. We cannot have a year-to-year lease. As a business owner, I can handle the pain, but as a responsible adult for somebody else, I need to change some things. So we decided to sell, and it was pre-COVID, which was an amazing, a great blessing. And we were able to sell it, not for a lot, but we were able to sell it because somebody kept asking me, what's your number?
Yeah.
And he would always come in, what's your number to sell? And I was like, yeah, he came on a day. I was like, what's your number? And then we sold it. And then afterwards, my wife's like, well, now that we're going to sell this thing, you got to go get a job. I was like, I'm not employable.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. So, but I knew I had to go get a job because, I'm going to have a child.
Yeah.
So my mentor, I kept sending my mentor clients, and he had a job posting. So I applied to work for him, and he said, no, you're too entrepreneurial. You'll probably break my system. I was like, thanks. But I thought I was going to be good at this, Right. And I did not know that a lot of people have a lot of opinions about money. I had no idea about that. All I knew was this changed my life. I was able to sell my business and not close my business because of this this product.
Right.
And so then he comes back to me about a month later and says, I have an idea. How about you and your wife start your own agency and I'll coach you? I was like, that sounds even better. She's 7 months pregnant. No one's going to hire her. So we end up starting our own agency, and then we learned that Dave Ramsey loves to hate us, all that stuff. And we're like, oh, well, it only made a difference for us. And within Infinite Banking and Profit First, those two concepts built a good foundation for us. So, hey, that's why we're here now. So that was a crazy story. But you said you like stories. So.
Yes. Well, that's how we learn. But I've never had a business underwater, but I had one of my edible arrangement stores that I owned many years ago. I had it in my mind actually as you were telling the story, and I was visualizing myself walking into, several inches of water. So I was right there with you, man.
We were crying, and you think about it, you put everything into it. But what I've learned is as we start a business, this is a 5-year-old business. It's like a child, right? And you probably, I don't know if people get this, but when you start a business, it's like you have to wipe the poop, all kinds of crazy stuff. Yep. And a lot of times we compare ourselves to a 20-year-old business, not a newborn.
That's right.
And now we're at a place with our current business. It's over 5 years. I'm like, oh man, it's starting to do things on its own. This is pretty awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same as you're saying for children. About the 5-year mark, they get dressed on their own and they're starting to
Most
kind
of the time.
A little mismatch, but a little autonomy never hurt anybody, and they'll figure it out, But I love that depiction of correlating it to business, because it's 100% right. There's guys listening right now, or gals, who are 2-3 years in and wondering when their business is going to start dressing themselves. And the reality of it is that there's probably real chaos that has to get worked out with systems and process. But some of it's just a little bit of time, like what you're talking about, just letting it mature, right?
Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolf. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow.
Yeah. And there is chaos, right? And we will have that. And that leads into something we've thought about a lot of times in business and understanding when to make the right moves. And we have an acronym. We love acronyms. That was Overflow. That's a visual, wealth, wisdom, financial. There's visual there, with wealth and wisdom. But then chaos. This is where a lot of people are in, and people feed off of chaos. It's confusing.
Yeah.
It's haphazard.
It's exciting.
Anxious. It's exciting sometimes, overwhelming and stressful, right? That's chaos. And we love that. And then you think about the tax code. Figuring out taxes is chaos, right? Mm-hmm. Confusing, haphazard, anxious, overwhelming, and stressful. If anything from COVID years taught us, that's exactly it. And people are realizing there's a lot of that in us.
That's right.
We need to go back to something else, and that's what we call the still method. And this is set your sights. Where the heck do you want to go? Most people have no idea. All their goals is to go to Disney World, right? So set your sights, track your in and out. That's if you want a good, healthy, rock hard abs and stuff, you do the same thing.
Yep.
Like that's the gym. Set your sights, track, inspect your progress, look for 1% adjustments, not the 100%, but the little micro adjustments, and then live deliberately.
Yeah,
and then you do that regularly. And I never said anything about life insurance. I never said anything about anything, but those micro adjustments, those 1% adjustments over time. If you again, going back to that running guy, if he's going in the wrong direction, massive action, but in the wrong direction, that can be a problem.
Yep.
But if he did the method, he could say, "Oh wait, I need to orient a little bit," right?
Yep. That's right.
And rechange direction.
Yeah.
But anyway, we love the still method. We do this regularly and try and teach people. This is in our business. We have a community that we've developed, and that's our, inside of us. We're just not good at packaging it. That's for sure. We're definitely not good at the wrapping paper of sales.
Yeah, we were talking about this, beforehand. Obviously, you have a great product, and so that's why you've been able to be successful. Sometimes things sell themselves, but not all the time, And so let's kind of go down that road a little bit, because I think that there's a worthwhile discussion for the listener. Brandon and I, before we hit the record button, we're talking about this idea of you have a present, which is your product, your offering, your service, and then the wrapping paper that goes on it, which is the marketing. And of course, your sales process is attached in between there. But a lot of times, I don't know if you guys feel this way as listeners. I feel this way for sure. You walk into a physical establishment, or if you're just online, either way, it's like you don't really know. Is this really what I'm getting, or is this a fake photo? Is this wrapping paper really shiny for a reason? Are they trying to cover up something? And so, really, what I think it's made me and maybe other people is cynical of going like, I'm a good person and I wouldn't put bad wrapping paper on a bad or good wrapping paper on a bad gift. And so when I've experienced that, it's like, oh, bummer. Like that's not how this is supposed to go at all. And so now it makes me reluctant to trust people. And so anyway, this is what we were talking about before we hit the record button. So let's just kind of press into this a little bit. For financial services, it's like, like pretty dry from a perspective of like, really, we all know that we need it probably, but do we really want to go spend money on that? Well, not really, because it's not exciting. There's no shiny wrapping paper. Yeah. And so how are you navigating that, or how are you attempting maybe to put the shiny wrapping paper on such a not shiny decision?
I think some is hiring people that can help you with that, that understand that and can help you become, a star, famous, if you will, in those places without compromising integrity.
Yeah, that's big.
Something I will not do. And I could go to Fiverr and get my YouTube subscribers up, and they're all fake in India. But then people will join my community because they're like, yeah, you're cool because you have all these people. I'm like, they're robots. Yep. I don't care. I'm not going to do that ever. And if that means my business is smaller because of that's okay. But I have things that I'm willing to die on for that. But at the same time, we are in a world of flashiness and fakeness, right? So playing with that, having a good website, it's still hard for us. Yeah. And then playing the games, right? Having good content, like putting out our podcast. We do that regularly. Is it easy? No. But then this is why people were drawn to the crypto craze and what's happening there, or the Bernie Madoffs, is they're trying to get the results without the effort. Right. Sometimes. Yep. And then things happen. We get the shovel and we're like, oh yeah. And you have to be aware when you're being sold something and you don't have to put any effort into it. This is part of in business. I think that honestly, the reason that most of them fail is because they're looking for a shortcut and there is none. Yeah. Right. Unfortunately.
Yeah. To your shovel comment, people, us, you, me, the listener, we've all done it, where we've purchased that hole, right? Like I don't want the shovel. Just come dig the hole. That's the problem. And so even in sales and marketing, like that's, in order to sell the shovel, you don't sell the shovel, you sell the hole.
Yep.
Because that's the actual problem. That's the actual need. And so there's nothing wrong with that portion of it. But if I buy the shovel thinking that it's going to do it itself, or that I have no involvement in that, then that's just not integrity in this case, or not honesty. And so I think that's what we've identified a lot, and it's just kind of funny because the example that popped up in my mind online, of course, there's all the gurus and I've even had people, comment on ads that we've run and, even stuff that we've posted organically. There's like, scam this, scam that. I'm like, buddy, you don't even have a clue. But then there are real people out there, unfortunately, doing that, which then makes those people cynical, like we had just gotten talking about. And it's just unfortunate, really. But so how we're fighting that is we're saying, okay, be genuine, do the thing, but live by integrity. But you also have to play by the rules. And so here's for the listener, here's the takeaway. Playing by the rules means you still got to be a good marketer. You still got to be good at sales. That doesn't mean that you need to be sleazy or that you're making false claims. What that does is that you need to get really, really good at telling your story clearly to the people that need to hear it, because they're going to respond to that message. And you got to do it a lot, and you got to kind of put some frill on it. Got to put some nice wrapping paper on it.
I think that's where we're learning a lot over the course, even with the coffee shop. We're like, we don't need all that. But we have to, and that's why you hire somebody out. But then I also learned, and I got really offended when Dave Ramsey is saying like, oh, people who sell infinite banking it's a scam. And I was like, I really take offense to that, because this is what I do. And I know he makes a crap ton of money. I was going to use another word, but and he's done some questionable things. because of, clickbaity type things
Right.
of knowing if you show negative, you'll get more. And I can say how the 401k is a scam and all these kind of things. I just don't want to go there, but I do know my own story and how this concept has impacted us from both a financial standpoint and a, spending time with our family standpoint, right?
Yeah.
And when somebody attacks you, you're like, oh man, no, here's my story. And then people will argue and say, yeah, but I'm like, yeah, but, and I've had clients tell me, yeah, but it doesn't do this. I'm like, no, you're wrong. I know for sure it does what it does because I've used it this way. Yeah, but I watched a TikTok video and this is what they said. I'm like, no, that is not what it does. Yeah. You never went through the process, and there's a lot of haters out there, and that we're gonna have them as we're successful. Yeah. But the reality for me is like know who you are, and know how it's impacted you. Right? That's ultimately we need to have more ethics and integrity as we do our job.
Brandon, I think I just heard you say that you wanted the thumbnail on this video to be 401k is a scam.
I mean, I do have probably a thumbnail that said that, right?
Good. That's funny.
And sometimes I don't want to be on that. Oh yeah, 401k suck and all hater. Like I'm like, that's not healthy either as a person to say, these guys suck and this and I don't need an audience jack on Dave. I have a little bit, but not too much. But I was like, he's just trying to get some people in his video. If you look up infinite banking, you'll find him number one on that concept on YouTube, and it's wrong, like 100%, right? And I'm like, but a lot of times people don't want to look at the math. That's why know your numbers is really important for any business.
Yeah, for any business, absolutely. What as we kind of transition here, what's a good business resource? I mean, you've mentioned Profit First a couple of times. You've mentioned the Still method already. Take this opportunity. Give us the most impactful thing, the most impactful business resource, book or method, whatever, that the listeners can go dive into and get some value from.
Oh, I mean, I just named a bunch. I feel like that book, Road Less Stupid, that was a really good one, and people not just thinking time. I think that we need to step away, just to be able to know who we are, right? I think that one of the most valuable resources, and again, I'm not a uber religious person, but I would say go to God and ask questions and reflect internally about who you want to be, and then step into that. Right. That's one. We always are looking outward. Maybe we need to be looking inward a little bit.
That's huge.
Personally, I think
what's been the growth in. I mean, tell us about that, because like you said, whether you're reading a book about thinking time and going and sitting strategically in a quiet place and thinking about certain questions or reflection, or you're reflecting, like you said, and asking God to enlighten certain areas or give you answers or give you wisdom or help you with certain things or help you with understanding, whatever the situation is. What does that do for us as an individual when we reflect on the internal as opposed to what's happening external?
I think you start knowing more about what you want and who you really are, right? There's a Franciscan priest, Richard Rohr, I think. A lot of times what he says is that there's two halves of life, and we're building all the things on one side, and then we realize, oh, none of that stuff really matters, and we go into the end of life and say, oh, it's all about the relationships, the other stuff. Yeah. And I think that's wisdom. That's why our business is called Wealth Wisdom Financial. It's not about money, but money does help. Like, it does. If you can't feed your kids, there's that Maslow hierarchy of needs kind of thing. Right. There's business hierarchy of needs as well. We need to overcome that. But at realizing, where do I want to be? What kind of, even as I think about reverse engineering my life, I'm like, what? I have a 5-year-old, but what kind of grandparent do I want to be?
Right.
Do I want him to still like me when he's 25? Right. So I got to do those things now. That's again why we do our financial framework. When we do meet with our clients, we do sell life insurance policies. But I feel like whenever I do my financial analysis, I'm asking those questions, and people are like, "Whoa, no one's ever asked that before." And I'm like, the policy will help, but it's just a policy. It's just life insurance. You know what I mean? But what it can help you do, that's up to you. It's infinite. And so
that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I would say resource, go to our podcast.
There you go.
I'm gonna plug myself.
Yeah.
Wealth Wisdom Financial. My wife is really smart. She is a CFP. I have a background in running a crazy business with her. So Wealth Wisdom Financial, you can find our podcast, YouTube, look us up. We better be able to be found. And if we're not being found, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Oh, sure.
The website will change at some point, but
it's all good, man.
You'll find a lot there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I got a question for you about just family dynamic, because you've been open about just the partnership with your wife and being in a business, now multiple businesses. As entrepreneurs, I find that it's easy for us to go all in on things. We get excited, we get obsessed, and then there we go, right? And so my question is, how have you been able to obsess over your wife, your family, at the same kind of rate or intensity as the business? Especially since you a few minutes ago mentioned that the thing that held you together was your massive debt, which was obviously not that's not the greatest place to be in a marriage. And so, what have you done maybe since then that's been super helpful?
Yeah, I think have you ever heard of the jar with the rock analogies?
Oh yes, yeah.
Right. Uh-huh. So when I told you, second year of our marriage, everything was happening. We were going wrong, and all kinds of crazy stuff. What we did to overcome that was we were putting everything into the business. We were running on like no money, steam. But what we made a priority was putting date night on the calendar. And we've done date night every week since, even with the 5-year-old, right? But we've done date night where we don't talk about work. We can't. We even, she yells at me all the time because I bring it up. But we put that on the calendar.
Yeah.
Right? The things that you want to accomplish, this is the financial still. We have the still framework that we're doing, and we're writing a book, right? Well, guess what we had to do? We had to put time to do those things.
Yeah.
Because if you don't put those times in place, they will, everybody else will have a plan. They'll have a plan for your money. They'll have a plan for your time.
That's right.
So put those big rocks in place. If you value your marriage, then show that you value by, putting those date nights in place. And I see this all the time, and they're like, yeah, but I just don't have time for that. I'm like, no, you do. We make time for what's important.
Exactly.
And then on Sundays, we don't do work. We have a mantra, family adventure day. We go out, we do adventures. And I'm also a caretaker of my mother-in-law. So those things are important. But putting those big rocks in place and then filling it with the sand and the water, not last.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's something that we've heard, but it's good to hear again. And even the way that you establish that format, this first and then this, really matters. I love the Adventure Day title as well. We've got young kids as well, and I think that sounds awesome. And what we do also, we don't call it that, and so I think that it just needs a title, and then you can lean into it.
And here's the thing he's learned. It's not an adventure unless something goes wrong.
That's right.
Something will go wrong. Life and business, something will go wrong. You just roll with it, and you're like, all right, cool. That was interesting.
Right.
Let's figure it out.
Let's figure it out.
And what I like, again, going back to the faith thing, is the Bible talks a lot about tithing, right? That's a big rock thing.
Right.
So, and then if you do that, and there's a book called Richest Man in Babylon.
Oh, yeah.
Get 10% of all you earn is for you to keep. You do the same thing as you do with tithing and what that says there. And Profit First is the same thing, right? I'm like, well, they're just saying put what's important first, not last.
That's right.
And if you really value your kids and you value your marriage, you'll do that.
Yeah.
Now, I still have a big business and staff and all that, and we're growing. Not as fast as I want, but that's I have a 5-year-old, so that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I love what you said there. The correlation of even Profit First. Of Richest Man in Babylon is one of my favorite books, but it's not just about money. It's about putting the important things first, even though it feels undoable. And that's really probably even the caveat. It's like, no, it feels undoable, or it feels impossible, or it feels like, I'll get to that later because I don't have enough or whatever. The philosophy of tithing, the philosophy or method of Profit First or First Man or Richest Man in Babylon, all those are no. It doesn't. The circumstances do not matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Do this first.
And again, going back to the still method, make 1% adjustments. Right. You don't start with, I want to be like Grant Cardone and have a giant plane, right? Maybe that's good for you, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he didn't just get there. He probably made things progress along the way.
Yeah.
Right? All of those kind of things. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so true.
I'm just one guy trying to figure it out. So
I love that. I got one last question here for you, Brandon. I want to know, if you had the opportunity, reach back into time and whisper in your younger self, your younger ear, what would you tell that guy?
Oh, I would say one is do those things. I used to be in the Marine Corps and the music industry and all kinds of crazy stuff that I didn't even get to. But and I don't think my younger self would listen, but none of it, that's usually how it works.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Understand the principles of the first and start saving. Put into a life insurance, properly designed life insurance policy right now. Because if I did that at age 20, I'd be in a lot better place. Have multiple real estate properties, not just 2 or 3.
Right.
So
there you go.
And use your money. Don't do what the banks tell you to do. Do what the banks do. So I tell my younger self, reflect on that.
Yeah. It's an interesting concept. Do what the banks do, not what they tell you to do. Brandon, how can the listener find you? Number one, if they are interested in this concept, Profit First, or this infinite banking thing that you mentioned several times, how can they find you? Or if they're just an entrepreneur, they want to know how you've grown your businesses, how you made it through the up and down, how can they find you?
Yeah, if you go to wealthwisdomfp.com, F as in financial, P as in partners.com/Brandon, there's a link. You can schedule an intro call with me. Really easy. Wealthwisdomfp.com. And then our website, we have, a community site there. We have all kinds of stuff. So if you look up Wealth Wisdom FP or Wealth Wisdom Financial, you better be able to find me or my amazing wife.
There you go.
Or both of us. There
you go. Well, we appreciate you giving us all that information. We'll make it easy for folks listening to be able to find you guys as well and partner with you in that. But this has been a fun conversation and thought-provoking. I hope for the listeners to be able to really do some of those things that we know that we need to be doing, that we've heard probably on other podcasts before, but here's your sign. Do the important things first, like Brandon has taught you here today.
Just schedule it.
Make it work. Brandon, thank you for being here. Blessings to your family and to your business and all that you put your hand to in 23. Thanks, brother.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.